Welcome to the Fire Bay, the podcast where we dive into the heart of the fire service, community engagement, and the stories that keep our world safe. Join Colton every week as he brings you behind the scenes, discuss the issues that matter most to firefighters, share personal stories, and explore ways we can all make a difference in our communities. Whether you're a firefighter, supporter, or just someone who cares about public safety, you're in the right place. This is the Fire Bay.
Welcome back to the Fire Bay. I'm Colton Young. In our first episode, we talked about a little bit of fire unions in the South, their roles, and how they differ from the North versus the South on some of that. But today, I have my first guest on the Bay podcast. Welcome, Matt Elliott. He is the Vice President of Hendersonville, Local 3460, out of Hendersonville, Tennessee. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
So I appreciate you being the first guest. You and I,
it's an honor, man.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have worked together for the last, I guess, almost 2 years now, on some issues locally, and just kind of tell everybody who you are, what's your role in the fire department, what's your role in the union, and just kind of some fun facts about you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Man, first of all, just again, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. This is an honor to be your first guest. I think what you're doing is great. So we hope to get a lot out of this. So yes, my name is Matt Elliott. I am a senior firefighter with Hendersonville Fire Department, and I am the vice president of Local 3460, the Hendersonville chapter of the International Association of Firefighters. And for those that are listening, like the senior firefighter role, I know you hear that as usually it's just like the senior guy on a crew, but that role or that position in our department is kind of like a lieutenant slash engineer. At other departments, it's kind of hard to explain. It's very unique, but my primary role is to be an engineer, a pumper operator, and then if my captain is off or if he has to move into a battalion chief's role, then I'll jump into the hot seat and ride his captain seat on those days.
Perfect. Just for knowledge, how many stations does Hendersonville have?
We now have 7 stations. The 7th station was just built a couple years ago. Started staffing it a little over a year ago. So yeah, we're up to 7.
And y'all are full-time career firefighters? Any volunteers, anything like that?
No volunteer, full-time career firefighters.
And y'all do mostly all hazards. So y'all do wrecks, fires, diving, hazmat, pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, we run the gauntlet of anything that could possibly come our way as far as fire department activities. Yeah, I mean, if we're called to do something, it's just typically going to be on us. We'll respond to everything. Like you mentioned, we have a dive team, we have a swift water team, we have technical rescue guys. I mean, we have a couple of guys that are on the Tennessee Task Force that are deployed. So yeah, we respond to all kinds of different emergencies and have to be trained and prepared to do everything that we're called for.
Awesome. I know you and I kind of, like I said, we've had conversation for the last 2 years and stuff. You kind of got thrown into this role as VP, not really. I mean, you were in the union beforehand, but not really as an active like leader part.
Yeah.
Tell me how that's transition's kind of gone from basically coming a member to being in leadership.
Yeah, so I started out as a rank and file member. After a couple of years of being involved, moved into a shift steward position, and then from there moved into the vice president role a couple of years ago. And it's been an interesting transition period. I mean, when I was a member, and then even when I was a shift steward, we didn't necessarily get involved as much as we do now. So the transition into an e-board member of that rank has been an interesting one, given the time period in which it happened, and things that we're dealing with at the city level, and our involvement with local politics and everything that goes along with that, and also just the increased involvement of our union I don't know that you mentioned this on your last podcast. I have no problems calling it a union.
Yeah.
Uh, the association is a great term, and I love that too. But me personally, it's a union of people collectively working towards a similar goal. So I have no problem with that verbiage, and I typically do use that. Just to preface it with that. But apart from and coinciding with the political aspect of it is just the events that we've created as our union has grown stronger. We have a golf tournament that we started, the inaugural golf tournament last year. We're planning our next one for October right now. Uh, it's looking great. We've done a trap shoot tournament. We've just gotten really involved with the community, which is what we're really focusing on. It's kind of the heart and passion. It's just to show the community involvement of what our guys do on and off shift and what we would like to provide for the community. So the role has definitely transitioned from just a member to the vice presidency, and even more so with just kind of the times and how it's transitioned
Right.
naturally.
And you kind of mentioned something that I want to bring up, but sometimes people are like, oh, unions are just out there to, you know, be mobsters pretty much, just bash heads and hate politics and all this other stuff. We're just out there to fight each other. And I don't think that's true. I think more than likely our jobs are to work with elected officials to help educate them on our jobs, because a lot of them don't know. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
they don't know what we do. Most of them are citizens throughout their communities or their districts or their, y'all call them wards in Hendersonville,
Hmm.
that they don't have a clue really what public safety is. And so it's kind of our jobs as union leaders and uh, command staff of departments and whatnot to help bridge that gap, um, of what we do versus what they think we do, because there's a lot of things that look great on paper that aren't really feasible. And again, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, just to kind of hit on that point too. I mean, I think I had the luxury of going to the Communication Training Academy and the Political Training Academy that the IAFF puts on annually up in Baltimore. I went this past year. I mean, just a wealth of knowledge up there with those programs. And in that Communication Training Academy, we discussed that, the difference between like the mob boss union mentality and the realistic aspects of union work and what we're about, and some of the history behind that. Just uh, when you think of union, if you just ask a person just in general, what's your thoughts about it, about union? They go to like the Jimmy Hoffa type stuff, and
we're
and
still looking
every
for him.
yeah, and every mob boss movie you can think of, and like how it's just a negative connotation that derives from that, and then you start to think, not to be conspiratorial or anything, but you start to think, why was that? Why was that such a push to make unions out to look like that in a Hollywood aspect when if you talk to the real people doing the work, what we're here for is a lot different than that. Just like you said, to educate and to bring people along, to get people on the same page, to ultimately look out for the collective body that you're representing. And we just happen to be doing that for our firefighters on the local level.
Something that I've heard, I get the luxury of kind of traveling around a little bit and talking to different people and stuff like that in my role in the state. But one thing that I've kind of heard across a lot of municipalities, whether it's county, city, but it's a lot of these board members. I think that's the safest way to say it, because you got council and BOMA and all this other stuff. But let's just
Right.
call them board members. But a lot of them don't understand, like, why do you need 4 people in a fire truck? Or why can't you just keep that old apparatus rolling? It looks good, but you're in 105-degree weather and the AC doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's stuff like that unfortunately, if let's say early 2000s and stuff like that, um, a lot of departments around locally didn't have the support of politicians, their local politicians and stuff, and and the South a lot too. I mean, there's a lot of volunteers. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
ton of volunteers. So I think sometimes people forget that things cost money. I mean, you see fire engines going from, $300,000 to $1 million now. Like
Right.
the price is just wild. And you know, I think people don't understand that. Like, it takes a lot of money to keep these up,
Absolutely.
and it's not only about keeping them up, it's about keeping up with some of the most updated gear and equipment, because updated equipment saves time and time saves lives.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. I would agree with that. And it's just like when we're training new guys when they come in, from recruit school or during recruit school. We have recruits that going through our first in-house academy right now in the Hendersonville department, and that's a great thing. That's just like when we speak to those guys, we don't know what you don't know
mhm.
unless you let us know what you don't know. And you take that concept and you take it out and expand it into the municipalities, and we don't know what these board members don't know until we figure that out. So that's part of the process as well. I mean, we've launched, we've been a part of and been associated with, in a small degree, the creation and implementation of the Hendersonville Citizens Fire Academy, which is a great thing. And to kind of kick that off, we invited every board member to be like the inaugural class of that. And we had a lot of good feedback and a lot of participation. It's been a good thing. So
and
they
and
have
a lot
they
of
happen to
social media coverage on that too, from those
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a very positive thing. And they happened to come to my station on my shift and we went through some things and talking about just costs of different things that you may not think of. Like we took them out to one of our shed out at Station 3, and we talked about how much things cost and what makes that cost different if you slap a fire rescue tag on it. It has to be certified fire. It's just things get exponentially more expensive when it comes to the firefighting of it. And we looked at the hose rack, which was pretty bare, and like there should be a lot of hose here, but
Mhm.
we're out, we're down. We go through annual testing on hose testing, and we find problems with hose, and this hose rack is barren as opposed to what it should be. And know what that takes? It takes finances. It takes
Mhm.
money to
Absolutely.
get these things right, and the equipment, the tools that we use. Not and like you mentioned, the apparatus. I will say that our board has done a pretty good job of implementing what's called the apparatus replacement program. That's a great thing. We've had a lot of good feedback, so that we can systematically have in place the replacement of apparatus when the time comes. So those are some good things, some positive aspects that have come out of some of these discussions. And how would that happen otherwise than being involved?
Right. And, you brought up the apparatus replacement. That's one thing that my local department did. A few years ago, we had a fire chief retire, and one of the shift commanders got promoted to fire chief, and he's done a great job. We had some old engines. You know, we were commercial cab, uh, just, I mean, they were good. Like, don't get me wrong, and they did the best that they could with the money that they had. But in the last 5 or 6 years, they've really come around on our apparatus. Of course, we run EMS and fire and
Hmm.
EMA. We're a one stop shop for everything.
Yeah.
And they got an ambulance replacement plan. They have a fire engine replacement plan, boat replacement plan. I know both of we our departments work mutual aid a lot on the lake too. Um,
Yep.
so it's nice and refreshing to see when people do set up for the future, because so long ago I feel like people were more reactive than proactive, and I think today's leadership in the fire service, the fire chiefs and stuff like that, I think they truly are starting to understand more of the long term goals and predicting that future growth versus, oh shoot, we're here now, we needed this 10 days ago and now it's
Absolutely.
$5 million, and it's like, well, where's that going to come from?
Yeah, that epidemic of being a reactionary type program as far as the fire service goes is something that I see changing as well. Being progressive and planning ahead, such a such a huge benefit.
So we've talked a little bit about the politics and kind of the understanding that they have, and I kind of want to divert over to something. And I think we all agree we want a safer community. But again, we were talking about this just a minute ago. There's definitely a disconnect between the fire ground and city hall or county hall or whatever you want to call it. And I guess my question is why do you think there's such a huge disconnect? Like, do you think it's always intentionally that they just don't want to know, or they bury their head in the sand? Or do you think sometimes it's, you know, they're not coming out, we're not inviting them? You know, to me, I don't feel like we should have to invite them to do everything. I feel like if they're, you know, there's committees and stuff like that. If you're on a committee, I feel like you should kind of know what your committee's over,
Yeah.
and get out and do some research yourself. But what do you think? Kind of, what's the reason why there's such a big disconnect?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I, I tend to maybe look towards the positive side of things a little bit more. I do keep in mind that, you know, these city officials or county officials, or what have you. I mean, they have a lot on their plate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not something that goes overlooked. I mean, we are one aspect of a municipality that has to be served in whole. Obviously, we take to heart what we feel our heart is closest to, which is what we do. So we take that very seriously. So I mean, just to say that they're turning a blind eye for it or to it, you know, strategically or purposefully, I don't know that that's always the case. I think sometimes it is just a lack of education, and maybe that is because there's so much else going on. But when the time does come to be educated on it, whenever policies are brought forth or resolutions or codes are brought forth to them, then we have to figure it out somehow, right? It's got to be figured
Right.
out somehow. So I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that it has to just come from an invite every time. You know, we're obviously always welcoming with open arms to educate people on what we do. Um, I do think it does help when there is a line of communication that we can work with and count on, and that both parties know that they can go down that avenue with just the ability to have that clear communication. Um, so to
Well,
answer your question, I don't know. It's a difficult one to answer, honestly. And it
and I
really
don't
is
really
up to.
think that there's a right or wrong answer to this.
Yeah,
I think it's, it varies from city to city or
I think
county
it
to
does
county.
too. And official to official, when it
Yeah.
comes down to it, So um, whatever the case may be, the goal needs to be to eliminate any kind of miscommunication or lack of education on what we do.
Well, I'm actually glad you brought up miscommunication, because that brings me to my next topic. Um,
Perfect.
so I've seen, because I live around here, um, but y'all's mayor has a e-newsletter that gets sent out to, I want to say everybody, but that's not true, because I've signed up for like 8 times and I keep getting rejected off of it. But
Yeah.
he sends out this newsletter, and 2 or 3 times now he's really targeted the International Association of Firefighters. He
Yeah.
won't say y'all, the Hendersonville Firefighters or whatever. He says the International Firefighters Union and stuff like that, and that's fine, whatever.
Right.
But blatantly, kind of giving false or half truths. And I want to applaud y'all. First of all, I got to attend one of y'all's meetings. I actually got to speak for on behalf of y'all, in kind of favor of y'all. But y'all had a great turnout. Your members and their families. Y'all had a strong social media presence. Y'all had great, yourself, your president. A lot of your members all did very well speaking. But I can't help, and I just kind of want to ask, y'all have a y'all have a fraternal order police chapter at Hendersonville, correct?
We do. Yeah, that's
Uh,
correct.
Okay, so did I or did I not listen to the meeting where they got up and spoke and said basically, if you don't give us a raise, there's going to be a mass exodus of employees because they need pay.
No, yeah, you didn't make that up. That happened. That's
Okay.
that's for sure. Yeah, and we've supported the FOP in every step of the way with what they've brought forth. But um, yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, that there were those clear indications of what could potentially happen if there weren't changes made specifically to pay and things that happen that way. So yes, the FOP has been outspoken as well for their needs.
So,
Um,
so I guess my
and
question is why? I mean, and I support the FOP, as well.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
I think they're doing exactly
It
what
should
they're
go with
supposed
it
to do.
should it should go without saying, but we
Yeah,
feel like in this political
yeah,
climate, we have to reiterate that yeah, we are supportive of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they'll take a snippet out of this podcast and try to twist words. I can't wait to see this in the newsletter. Um, but you know, the FOP is doing exactly what they're supposed to. Y'all are doing exactly what y'all are supposed to, advocating for their members. But I have my opinions about this. But I just kind of want to see, does the local or does Matt Elliott or however you want to answer this, and you don't have to, it's okay. Um, do you have an idea why the mayor keeps calling out the fire union versus, you know, all of them? I mean,
Right.
because they're a union as well as y'all are. I mean,
That's a fair question. Let me just read a quote from the latest news letter that went out. It says, with the title, "The Union in Hendersonville," quote, "The only union pushing Hendersonville to spend more money is the International Association of Firefighters," end quote. Um, that's from the newsletter. So that speaks to what you're talking about, why that verbiage was used. I couldn't tell you, Colton. I mean, I wish I could, because if I could understand that fully, then maybe I could understand how to remedy that a little bit better than what we've done up to this point. But um, I just don't know. I don't know why that statement would be made, and not an inclusion of other um,
employer representative.
organizations,
Yeah.
yeah, and other employee representation, making the same push for similar things. Yeah, I don't know. It's clearly different.
So
There's clearly a different sentiment as far as like why that's happening. I don't know.
so just kind of to fill in some people that probably don't know, um, about I guess we're almost in August. We're right now. Back
Hmm.
early this year, your fire chief, actually was kind of being discriminated against. Or was it end of last year? It was this year, right?
It was end of
Started
last year, I
last
believe.
year. Last
Yeah,
year, kind of the hearing was this year. Um,
correct.
started last year, had a hearing this year, followed all the proper channels with the grievance policy of the city. Um, went on 2 days, two
Yes.
2 days.
One really really long day.
It just felt like two.
Yeah.
So it went on one really long day. I was there for a little bit, kind of listening in and stuff. Your chief is a good friend of mine. I consider him a friend, mentor. I've looked up to him many years. I've gotten to know him. But he was blatantly discriminated against. I mean, he he's been a employee of the city for over 30 years. Um, my understanding was he started, like in the parks department, and then
Hmm.
went to the fire department, worked his way up from firefighter to he was a shift, or y'all call them battalion chiefs or division
Division
chiefs.
chief. Yep.
Was
Division
division
chief.
chief actually when I worked for the EMS service. Um, during my time there, he was promoted to interim chief after Chief Steele had left. Um, was doing and has done a phenomenal role since then. That was many years ago.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been at my job now for 10 years. So that's, you know, 12, 13 years ago. Um, but he was being discriminated against by not, you know, had some educations that was parallel with the police chief and the new police chief. The police chief had retired. The new police chief come in. The education in Hendersonville has a thing where what do y'all call it? It's the pay is comparable or
Parity.
thank you.
Yep.
Y'all have parity pay. Basically, if your education's this, you get a 5% bonus or whatever, and so forth. And he was kind of being discriminated against. And he had a strong case, went before the board. The board ultimately voted in his favor. He won, that case or that hearing. And it seems like the mayor ever since then has kind of been against the fire department. And that's speculation. Nothing has said, hey, I don't like the fire department. He's never once come out and officially said that. That'd be great if he did, because, I'd rather someone just tell me they hate me than, being two-faced in front of me. So, but since then, it's kind of caused a little ruffle with the mayor's office and the fire department. How is that affecting morale with the members in the department? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm not going to necessarily mince my words, but I will be very careful on how I answer these questions. But I would go back to your statement as far as um, ultimately the managerial review board ruled the way that they ruled,
Mm-hmm.
which was in favor of our chief. So the proper process was done, the proper channels were taken, and ultimately they ruled in favor of our chief. Um, so you take that for what it is. I mean, everything was done correctly on the up and up, publicly, and dealt with in the proper way, and that was what they came up with. Um, you know, since then, um, yeah, I mean, there's been things that have happened that would lend people to believe that the way that you're talking, and as far as like how it's affected our morale, um, I mean, you'd be aloof to think that it hasn't had any impact. I mean, we're firefighters. We ain't dumb,
Right.
and
Everybody thinks we are, but we're really not.
yeah, yeah. Well, we do our best not to be, and and we are collectively organized. And in my humble opinion, we're pretty well collectively organized, and we educate our members on what's going on. They're very aware of the political activities, and in doing that, since they are aware, I mean, it's going to impact the way that they feel and think. So morale is directly related to how you feel that you are being treated, and with those series of events happening, it's definitely hit us, and it's something that we know about, we're very aware of. Um, but like I've said in the past, ultimately, we're not going to let anything stop us from providing the absolute best service to our city and care for our citizens, no matter what's thrown at us. That's not like a invitation to make it as hard as possible, but we're going to do our jobs at the end of the day. So we're aware, and morale has been affected, but just like with anything else and any other fire department across the country, I can imagine they're going to rise to the occasion and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
No, I think that's really well put and very union politic of you as well. So good job. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
Communication Training Academy,
yeah, yeah, great
huh?
job. Good job, IFF. So I do agree. I think when it comes down to us, boots on the ground, boots in the field, however you want to say it, I think it does kind of reflect back how our administration either A, fights for us, or B, how our elected officials support us. And I want to speak on Wilson County. Like we have a great board right now. Like we have some very strong politics who support public safety, not just fire, but EMS, or, of course, we're fire and EMS, but
Hmm.
police, the sheriff's department, roads. I feel like we have a very strong political backing in Wilson County right now, and a lot of that's thanks to having those conversations, and honestly, our union supporting those people that support us, and
And the work that goes into that,
yeah,
that doesn't just happen overnight, man. It takes work, and it takes buy-in, and it takes involvement. And
yeah,
and you know how better, there's no better way to get people involved than to see real tangible evidence of why you should be involved. So
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah.
So,
And on that point too, before we move on, I would like to say
yeah,
it just we're very fortunate at Hendersonville with our local to have the working relationship that we do with our administrative staff. It's man, I know there's departments out there that don't have that luxury, and it's I mean, you know, I can't imagine facing some of the battles that we face without that working relationship. So I mean we're very fortunate, and we realize that, we appreciate it, and we hope to continue that.
well, you kind of said this, and it's perfect segue into my next topic. And we don't have too much longer in this podcast, so I won't hold you up too long. But
Oh, you're good.
um, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about Clarksville. I know, again, you kind of see my updates and stuff like that, but Clarksville Fire, um, I guess you would call that Middle West Tennessee,
Hmm.
kind of right outside or about an hour out of Nashville, not quite to the Memphis area, but um, they've released 5 firefighters in roughly about a month to 2 month period for standing alongside their union while talking about pay. And I say that they have, the only thing that can be said about this, and again, appearance is everything, right? And so losing five, let me rephrase that, letting go 5 recruits with minimum to no disciplinary action on their file, knowing that there's conversations being had by command staff um, about this. The state association went up there with the international and tried to help, you know, create some dialogue and stuff like that, trying to help them. Ultimately, unfortunately, they did not get a raise this year. It did not go through, which is very, very sad for them. But the fact of a chief officer that, first of all, he did this once before in Kentucky, kind of ran down their union there, and then comes to Clarksville and bullies his way in, kind of to firing and scare tactics. And I just have a problem with it because in Tennessee, TCA code 8-50-602, not that I know it or anything, but it talks about, employees cannot be disciplined, suspended, or fired for communicating with elected officials about operations and needs of agencies. That includes talking about safety issues, staffing, and yes, that includes pay.
Yeah.
And federally, people have the First Amendments. Just because you put on a shirt and a badge doesn't mean you lose every right that you have. But what's your thoughts on somebody, I guess, trying to bully? I guess it kind of goes back to y'all too. I mean, kind of being bullied into scare tactics. I mean, what do you think that does to morale for new firefighters, especially?
Yeah, it's I mean, heck, I mean that's an unfortunate precedent to be set. I mean, it's it doesn't really set the table for the type of leadership that you would hope would be there, and in my opinion, doesn't breed the leadership style that you would want to see your rank and file members um, learn from and utilize in their careers moving forward. Uh, it's I mean, it's just an awful situation. I mean, it's I mean, you referenced the Tennessee code. You know a little bit more than I do, but I mean, as far as and even maybe a legal standpoint, I mean, I just don't see the benefits of that in the long term, and how that would make a department better. I don't see how it would make um, an organization better. And and what we do and what makes us unique, in my opinion, is our line of work. So anything that impacts us and affects us ultimately goes to the citizens of the community that we're sworn to protect, that we
Right.
take very seriously. And it's a certain person that gets into this profession, and it's somebody that really, if we're doing it right, it's somebody that really cares about making a difference in an individual's life, potentially on a daily basis. So to take that away from someone, or to implement that kind of uh, yeah, leadership style, or morale killer, it just doesn't do anything but negatively impact the department, the organization, and, like I said, ultimately the community. Which, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help people. At the end of the day, we just want to do
Well,
our job.
exactly. And something too, I think people have to understand a lot of these, I know I'm going to get some backlash about, oh, well, they're recruits, they shouldn't be doing this. I mean, their rookie, or excuse me, their probation is 18 months. I mean, that
It's a long time.
to me that's too long. I mean, I understand 6 months, a year, like if you don't know that you're going to keep them or not within a year, I
Yeah.
felt like that's an administration problem. But
Yeah, and it's not my job to to figure out what a probationary firefighter looks like, in the roles and responsibilities. But ultimately, they are an employee,
mhm,
and the decisions that are going to be made are going to impact them as fully as it will a 20-year guy.
yeah, absolutely.
So
And my last comment on it is really, you know, if I was starting over again and I was going to a department, I would definitely look at about pay and stuff like that, benefits, all that. But if I live close to there and I have a young family and I had just, started into this field or whatever, and I wanted, my family was rooted around there and stuff like that, I would want to go work for my local department. And when I advocate for pay, I mean, we did this a few years ago at Wilson County. I'm not speaking just for me or patting my pocket. I'm speaking on the spouses, the children, that rely on the income that we make. I mean, nobody in this job is in it to get rich. But
right,
it also doesn't look good when you come into a job 5 years, 6 years ago, and your salary's raised almost 70% since you come into office either. But yet
right,
your firemen aren't getting any type of, you know, pay raise. So
right.
to me, I think there is it's just one of those things where I think it's a fine line of just being just petty. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and it speaks to the importance of what we're doing and while we're doing it. So
Hmm.
I mean, as far as like the conversation of unionization and being a union in the South, we have our struggles down here just like anybody else does, and uh, it does nothing but benefit our guys, that if we're um, up to date with the policies that are being created, and how those things are being um, played out. It speaks to why we do what we do.
I think at the end of it, it's pretty simple. Departments thrive when leadership and labor work together.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so to every firefighter listening, know your rights, look up the Tennessee laws, protect yourself when you speak up, um, know your federal laws, protect your rights, speak on matters of public concern, but don't speak against individuals. Be factual, don't be retaliatory. And check out your union. If you have a union at your department, talk to them, figure out what they're about, look at joining them. And if you don't, hey, that's okay too. But when someone comes to you and asks you why you should support the union, talk about the good things that your union's doing. So, Matt, I know I've kept you here for a long time. I know you got a bunch of stuff to do, and buddy, I appreciate you. And honestly, I just appreciate you standing up for your guys and all that you and your administration's doing over at the local 3460. And as always, man, if we can do anything, let us know.
Absolutely, man, and I appreciate you what you're doing for us at the state level and coming to speak on our behalf, man. That did not go unnoticed. We really appreciate you and all that you're doing. And man, it's just been an honor to be here on your podcast, first guest, dude. That's cool, man. And as far as standing up for our guys, that's something that I'll do every day as long as I can.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up for today's episode of the Fire Bay. On the next one, we're going to talk about staffing and what NFPA standards say. Why anything less than safe minimum puts firefighters and the public at risk. Until then, stay safe, stay united, and stand up for each other. My name's Colton Young, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you liked what you heard, please like, follow, and share this podcast. Do you have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at thefirebay@gmail.com.